Hi everyone. Um, just some thoughts. When we think about the upcoming 2020 Christmas, it's good to reflect on the year that's passed. Of all the things that are really important, we've been so out of alignment with our higher purpose and we have got off course. As we reflect in the year, we need to remember all the wonderful things it has taught us despite the challenges that we were given. What have you learned? Here's what I've learned. All the lessons through all of the pain, and what I want to help do for our greater good. While I step way out of my comfort zone to create this video about my journey of 2020, I have a message for each of you, and I want to spread this message to give you hope amidst a huge transition. We could all use a little hope now and then. Now, as I'm nervous, I wrote this out. I do want to make it personal, so don't mind me for reading off of here because there's a lot of things that I've learned. So, one of the big things is to be grateful. So, thank you, 2020, for teaching me some of these very hard truths. And there's about 50 lessons I learned this year. And I would like you to go back and see how many you learned. Pick out the positives. That's all we have. So, thank you, 2020, for teaching me that with everything that we think is negative in our lives, there's always something positive to learn from it. There is always a cause and effect. So when you see something and you don't understand it, always ask why, because there's something to learn. Thank you, 2020, for teaching me that humanity as a whole deserves better than what we have been doing and what we have done. That whenever there is darkness, there will always be light. That in order to make changes in the world, I needed to make big changes in myself first. You can't give to others if you haven't given to yourself. So you come first. That we have decided war and judgment amongst each other is more acceptable than understanding, compassion, and kindness. That in the name of a so-called greater good, we are allowing ourselves to suffocate. We don't even have the right to breathe anymore. That by causing mass chaos in our society, we have and will continue to turn against each other. That when you see at least two sides to everything, and there's always a positive and a negative, you are open to allowing what is different to exist in others, free from judgment. The freedom we seek is in the love. That we have amazing power to heal ourselves and to heal others once we tap into it, but only then can we heal others. That we can stand up for and fight for injustices. Black Lives Matter proves we are all connected and we are all searching for the same thing, and it's peace. That when I put my devices away, I am reminded of the amazing planet that we live on that is being destroyed by greed and selfishness. That when you take away the entitled attitude of materialism, then you take away family, and then you take away friends. If you don't have inner peace and calm within yourself, then you really have nothing in this life. That we have given our own personal power away to others for far too long now. That we are attached to the idea that the labels we try to identify with actually compartmentalize us into a box. We are not a box, so don't let your light sit inside. That if we don't agree with others, then we can't speak. We are too afraid to offend others, and we have lost our voice in our own inner truths. that we are not responsible for other people's emotions, thoughts, or opinions. We aren't even in control of ours sometimes, yet we try to control others. That way, when we disagree, instead of accepting the differences that make us unique, what are we accomplishing? Just war. That we are all connected and will continue to be, but we need to choose how this connection will look differently in working towards the future that we really want. We want a utopia. That what you resist persists, and what you fear only grows. Nothing is to be feared, only to be understood. That by going cashless in our society, we have now abandoned and further isolated our low-income people that don't have bank accounts. They are a result of the problem that was perpetuated by the government. Street drugs were once legal medications. Don't you ever forget that when you condemn somebody else. This can and does happen to anyone. I was physically addicted to gabapentin, but I got off. Medications are biologically addictive. We're almost all on and physically addicted to the drugs that they give you, which clouds your thinking and your feeling. Cashless societies also exist in other countries, and what's happening with them? We have to look at the whole. That by unplugging from my devices more often this year, I was able to do that, and I fell back in love with nature. But my heart has broken at what we've done to her in the name of greed, selfishness, and materialism. I've learned that the government continues to create problems and then loves to swoop in to make it look like the hero, to make them, to make us believe that narrative. They create the job loss and then they look generous by giving out money. But we all know it's not enough for most people to live on, and you will be expected to find a way to have to pay that back. 2010, the H1N1 pandemic ended, and that was much more dangerous than COVID. And it mysteriously, in 2011, there were 9/11 attacks. Please be aware that whenever you are in doubt, always follow the money. Greed has been the ruler of this world, sadly. I've learned that 2020 was an opportunity to teach children what truly matters. Your presence, nature, and life skills. It's not something that you can wrap and put under a tree. Children need to be taught how to think, not what to think. That I'm surprised I survived this year. I was in a really dark place, like many of you, I'm sure, and I could have easily acted on it, but I'm a fighter, and so are you. That I had to stare death right in the face again, like I did when I was 17 years old, to remember I'm not afraid of death, but I was getting afraid of life. Death, it's a beautiful transition, but I had to remember my higher purpose of being here and rise with it. I've learned that I am the only one in charge of healing my mind and my body, but I have to disconnect from the social media abyss to do so. I have that power, and so do you. And that power doesn't come from others, or from a device, or from a plug in the wall. I've learned that I was one of the many stories of having been abandoned by the medical system that claims to help people. My health deteriorated in all aspects. Luckily, I found my way out, but some don't. This was a gift I was given. I learned that the smaller our worlds are, the smaller our minds are. If we are not always learning how to do and be better, then we're stuck. I learned that what we focus on only grows, and it can grow like cancer or it can grow like a miracle. We get to decide. I learned that what you believe at an unconscious level is what you will create. We don't even know what we're hiding in our unconscious. We are the only ones, though, that create our own hell in our own lives. I learned that when we act in a way that fears death, we're also acting in a way that fears life. We have become so compliant to authoritarian orders. This is a year for movements. We need to reframe, we're in this together. I've learned that we all have an addiction to our devices under the illusion of connection. I learned that when I removed the power of the devices, the power of their hold over me, there is so much more peace, joy, and I can finally see clearly. I've learned that you absolutely cannot sacrifice your self-care for any reason. I've learned that in order to be inspired, you have to have dealt with despair. This is where strength, courage, and resilience come from. I've learned that to be something different, we have to do something different. And ironically, it's almost always the exact opposite of what we're actually doing. It's that simple. I've learned that we are bombarded with chemicals and electromagnetic energy that is killing not just our vibrations, but various other species around the world. Around us, nature, everything. We have become Earth's enemy and we need to fix it. I've learned that emotions we feel as humans are simply energy in motion. That's why it's called emotion. And the majority of us have this stuck in our bodies, and it will stay there and get worse as the trauma accumulates. I've learned that we have worked our asses off over the past however many years because we bought into the idea that all this superficial stuff would fill our inner void. I've learned that we have been betrayed. We've all been betrayed by systems that we were told would help us. The doctor's Hippocratic oath is to do no harm. Well, they harmed me. The legal system says you have human rights, but I don't because I have to wear a mask. The police system is there to protect you and your rights, but they don't. This is the new idea of freedom. They lied. I learned that by abandoning everyone in the name of COVID-19 as a so-called public health crisis, we have created and enabled and supported domestic violence, child abuse, financial abuse, mental abuse, suicide, cyberbullying, war against each other, isolation, and degradation. I've learned that what's good for the goose isn't always good for the gander. There's an elephant in the room, and we have to face it, and it is us. We have been the problem. We are the virus. We have already been infected, but we can heal. When you heal yourself, your view of the world will change, and much of it will break your heart, but those tears will be lined with hope as well. We are very empathic, loving beings, and we are all here for a greater good. I have learned that I do not want to live or continue to live in the state of the world that it's in right now, unless it changes for genuine greater good. And we can do this. I've learned that when we continue to chase greed and superficiality, we are simply acting like little lost children when those things are taken away from us because we forget what it's like to do without. I've learned the only way out of this mess is to turn toward each other, and away from the devices. The devices are what's creating our problems. I've learned that the only way out of fear is through it, and it is through unconditional acceptance, peace, and love towards self and others, all living beings. I have learned that to truly be in this together, we have to put away our devices to do that. I have learned that to try to make changes on the outside, I had to first make changes on the inside. On December 25th, 2020, better known as Christmas to many, for a minimum of 24 hours, I challenge you to unplug from the digital world and reconnect into the real world. Let's remember what we have seemed to have forgotten. It has always been about physical presence, not material presence. Go for a walk in nature. Go spend all that time for that 24 hours towards the attention of the people in your household. Do a random act of kindness to someone who is outside, likely cold and alone. This is our time to shift into miracles by reconnecting with our true potential. They cannot take that away from us. So, to whatever your higher power beliefs are, whether you call it Mother Earth, God, the universe, source, guides, or just your higher self, your unconscious. In order to create a new reality, we have to begin to change our ways and take action. More than ever, we need faith, love, hope, and prayer for all of humanity. So this Christmas, rather than focus on the sadness of what we don't have or can't do, as it's been in years past, let's focus on praying for the real things in life we actually do have and need in order to make this world better. No matter what your religion or your beliefs are, in whatever higher power you choose, we are all universally connected. We must love harder. We have to beat this fear disease. So let's make this day, December 25th, all about filling that day with love, healing, compassion, kindness, authenticity, and renewal. So on that note, let's try to be in this together and send out that good energy and those prayers. And I wish you a very happy 25th of December, 2020, in whatever way you pray.